welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host. My guest this evening is Speaker Emeritus Jim Amann. Speaker Amann, welcome, buddy. How are you?
Nice to be here.
Nice to have you again, sir. How have you been?
I've been well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jim, I was wondering maybe we can, for my viewers and listeners that don't know who Jim Amann is, who is Jim Amann?
A question I asked that.
You ask yourself that question all the time.
I'm a former Speaker of the House from Milford, Connecticut.
Yeah.
I was Speaker from 2005 to 2009.
Okay.
And retired. I have a lobbying firm now called International Government Strategies. We're a top 20 lobbying firm in the state, and we continue to grow, and life is wonderful after politics.
It is. I've semi-retired from politics myself, and it's just absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing to watch the process go by, and if you want to get involved, great. If you don't, that's okay too.
Right.
So I was wondering, maybe we can talk about tonight the upcoming legislative session up at the Capitol.
Yeah, actually, as we're taping here, it's going to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which is December 8th.
Right.
And they're in quite a tough position. You know, right when I was leaving the legislature, we just left with 4 surpluses in a row. We had about $1.4 billion in the rainy day fund.
Okay.
The economy was strong.
Right.
It wasn't much time after that, late 2008, early 2009.
Okay.
And I retired in January 2009.
Yep.
The new session started, and as we remember back then, we had pretty much a serious crash of our economy. And there were many causes of it, whether it be in housing or the bank failures. We can go on and on.
Right.
But certainly, that's what started this domino effect of many states going into deficit, having more difficult times in the economy.
Okay.
Connecticut traditionally is one of the last states to get out of those sort of situations. And one of the biggest reasons, Peter, is that we really do depend strongly on Fairfield County. Personal income tax, hedge funds. That's where a lot of our money comes from to pay our bills.
Right.
So when the stock markets go down, usually so does Connecticut's economy.
Right.
As they rise, they get
economy
better.
goes up.
But they get better.
Right.
That's wonderful English. They get worse, I should say.
Oh boy.
So what you're seeing now, though, is though the stock markets have risen,
Yeah.
many other factors in the budget are affecting the economy, and not just on this particular go-around, just the hedge fund problem.
Right. Now, as far as the upcoming session goes tomorrow, what are some of the issues that you think are going to be covered in the session tomorrow? Is it going to, in your mind, is it going to be a one day session and done, or do you think it's going to be a multiple?
Well, I'd be surprised if it goes more than 2 days.
Okay.
Usually what the Speaker of the House wants to do,
Yep.
by the time you go into session, you should have your votes.
Yep.
You should have your majority leader and your Speaker count the votes, making sure that you have enough people to be supportive to move the package out. So I'm assuming it should be a one-day session. You never know how long it may take. It could take 6 hours by the time they print the budget,
Right.
and it goes forward. It could be an all-day session. Right. I don't think it will go over 2 days, but who knows? I mean, nobody would have ever thought that they would have had a session like they did earlier in the year, which, if I remember, went, I think, pretty close to a record of about 27 straight hours. I don't think that's going to happen this time, but you never know.
Exactly.
And one of the reasons why is the talks up to about a week ago were bipartisan.
Right.
What's happened, the Republicans are now off the package. There was an agreement. So you never know what sort of economic bombs can be thrown from the Republican side, since they were kind of left out of the room.
Exactly. Now, as far as you're concerned, obviously you've probably seen the budget, correct?
No, I have not seen the budget. Certainly, I've been following it.
You've been following it. What do you think?
And we have some inside information. We try to get as much information. Obviously, as a lobbying firm, and as my former position, to try to understand it, but
Exactly.
it's probably changed 5 more times
I was going to say, it's probably changed since the
since
last...
this afternoon up till tomorrow.
Right,
So
exactly.
the information we have might even be old information.
Exactly.
Obviously, some of the big things that were important to the House Democrats,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the Senate Democrats do, and probably most Republicans, are the cuts to hospitals.
Right.
I think they were very concerned. The hospitals have been severely hit over the last couple of years with the last couple of Malloy budgets.
Right.
And so they I believe another $246 million of increased taxes was too much for the General Assembly to take.
Right.
The Hospital Association and the hospitals themselves have taken on a very aggressive rollback. They're running advertisements. I don't remember the last time they did that. And they're coming back strong to say, hey, listen, we're just not the place you should be cutting. The governor's argument is, hey, listen, the CEOs get paid plenty of money. The profit margins on the hospital are fine. Getting hit with this extra tax will not burden the hospitals. The hospital's argument is, wait a minute, Mr. Governor. In reality, what's going to happen is when you get that cut, I said taxes before, my mistake. When you get cut $240 some odd million,
Yeah.
it's not going to be the CEOs that are going to get cut. It's not going to be the top echelon.
Nope.
It's going to be what's important to me if I have a mom or a son or a daughter
Right.
in the hospital. They're going to cut maintenance. They're going to cut the assistant nurses.
Yep.
They're going to cut the areas of, where they clean for dumping your garbage and all those sort of things. It's going to be on the lower echelon that you're going to see those cuts.
Right.
And the worst thing as a patient you need is those sort of conditions where they may be unsanitary, not getting the care you should have.
Right.
And that's the reality of having severe budget cuts. If certainly the government ran the hospitals and they want to fire the CEOs and try to save money at the top, we know that's not reality.
Yeah, no.
Reality, when the cuts come in like that, it's going to cut where I, as a patient, really care. They're going to cut nurses. They're going to cut and below that. So that's going to be very tough, and I think most people have reacted to that. You'll probably see either a less cut to the hospitals or maybe that will disappear completely. Now, the other area, obviously, that we're concerned about is us as taxpayers. Are we going to continue to have a burden of having two of the biggest tax increases that we've had in the last 4 or 5 years
Right.
and get hit with another one? Well, don't be surprised. The other area, certainly we talked about General Electric.
Yep.
It looks like the governor's doing everything in his power to keep GE here. The bottom line is, what is that going to cost us?
Exactly.
Is that going to be in the budget?
Exactly.
So they don't have a lot of corners to go to to find pennies and nickels and dimes.
Right.
And so it's going to be a very, very difficult budget to balance. And unfortunately, once they get their noses above water,
Right.
they're looking at another $3 to almost $4 billion of deficits down the road. So that's the tsunami that's coming towards them. Right now, I think they're concentrating is how can we get our budget balanced now
Exactly.
and at least survive that first flood of water that has come in
Exactly.
to the state of Connecticut.
I was going to say, do you think that they're going to pass everything tomorrow?
As I said earlier,
Yeah.
I believe that, again, we don't know the unknowns.
Right.
But as a
But we
speaker,
hope.
as a former speaker, you would never bring your caucus in unless you had the votes.
Exactly.
So if they go in tomorrow,
Right.
which I'm assuming they are,
Yep.
if they go in,
Yep.
they're going to pass a budget.
Okay.
What that budget is going to look like,
We don't know.
we really don't know what the final outcome. It's going to be on our backs. It's going to be on labor's back. It's going to be on the business. Maybe even cuts to communities, municipalities. So time will tell.
Now, as far as you just mentioned having the proper amount of votes to pass the budget, what's the number that you need to pass?
Boy, if I remember right, let's see, 151, 76. You need 76 votes to win.
You did that pretty good.
Well, I should know that.
You did that pretty good.
Yeah, 70, you need 76 yes votes
Okay.
in order to pass a budget or any legislation.
I was going to say,
There's
how
100,
many?
there are 151 legislators. You need one above 50%.
Okay. And then once it goes on to the Senate, there's how many?
Well, same up there. It's
Right.
one over. There's 36 in the Senate. So, what is that? That's 20. Go on, do the math. 19.
All right.
Well, actually,
I was going to say 21.
18. If you 18, and then the lieutenant governor can break the tie.
Right. That's right.
Right.
That's right. I knew that.
So you need at least 18 with the lieutenant governor's support or 1917 vote.
Exactly. Now, in your mind, as being Speaker Emeritus and all those wonderful years you spent up at the Capitol, have things changed since you've been gone?
Well, again, it's on the outside looking in now.
Right.
It's funny because you observe it. I believe there was a lot in my day. There was a lot more. I guess friendships between both sides of the aisle.
Right.
That's number one. Things were different. The rules were different, and so you were able to go out with. After your session, you would go out with your colleagues from both sides of the aisle.
Right.
And that's when you really get to know somebody as a person.
Exactly.
So we used to break bread together. We used to go out and have a beer together. And those sometimes we'd have some very bloody discussions within the chamber. We would leave, and then you put those differences aside and you look at each other as fellow human beings and respect one another. So I think the respect factor has diminished. I think there's more of a divide, but I also think it's because the parties have become more extreme. Maybe not here in Connecticut as much as we've seen around our nation.
Okay.
But there's certainly, where there was a small wedge between Democrats and Republicans at one time, that wedge has gotten larger.
A little bit bigger.
The moderate part of both parties are having the most difficult time. If you're a moderate Republican, maybe not so much in Connecticut, I should say, but in most states, if you're a moderate Republican, or certainly a moderate Democrat, your voice is a very small voice. It does seem like the liberal or extreme liberal or conservative or extreme conservative are ruling the day.
Right.
And I think that is unfortunate because the further we go to the different poles, polar areas, the worse I think our relationships of understanding and respecting one another goes also.
Exactly. Jim Amann, would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Not at all.
We'll be right back.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm sitting here with Speaker Emeritus Jim Amann. Speaker Amann, welcome back. How you been?
Wonderful.
Good, good, good. So we talked about in the first segment, we talked about the budget and all that other fun stuff going on up at the Capitol, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little bit during this segment. But what are some of the other issues, the hot button issues going on? What else is going on up at the Capitol?
Well, it's all about the budget right now.
Right.
And social services obviously is another area. A lot of people, they don't want to see cuts to kids with autism. They don't want to see, we have so many problems that we've seen in our nation with mental illness, but those are also the areas that get hit the hardest.
Right.
So there's probably a fight going on in autism dollars, special education money, money involved with mental illness, corrections, how, keep ourselves safe, with our correction departments. What do we do there? I saw that, one of my clients are the state police, and they're thinking about cutting a barrack down again. In these times where we're seeing all these unfortunate terrorism attacks all around the world, this is not the time to hit the cut back on public safety.
Definitely not. No.
So I'll tell you, it's easy for me to say, but the governor and the General Assembly, they have some extreme difficult places to come to some sort of conclusion and agreement with. And it's going to be, I think, a very, very tough final day in that Capitol to at least get us, unfortunately, to another time probably close down the road where we'll be in deficit again, probably sometime in February or March.
Right. Now, as far as I believe it's January or February of the new
Yes,
legislative
first Wednesday
session?
in February. Yeah.
All right.
Lasts about 90 days.
All right.
Thank God for that. Thank God
gonna
for
say-
all of us.
I was gonna say
they
short
used to say,
session.
and being a former politician, I can get away with saying this.
Uh-oh.
They used to say it to me too. The only time we're safe in Connecticut is when the General Assembly is adjourned.
Exactly. Now, as far as the General Assembly goes,
Like doctors, we will do no more harm.
there you go.
Doctors say we'll do no harm.
That's right. You'll do no, but
We'll do no more.
That's right. Now, as far as the upcoming legislative session goes, let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Next year?
Yeah, next year.
Okay.
Hot button issues. What's going to be big up at the Capitol next year, as far as obviously the budget and social services and.
The thing is on your short session,
Right.
it's supposed to be only tinkering with the budget. And unfortunately, like I said, what they're doing right now is that they're tightening the screws just to keep everything together right now. Unfortunately, by the time session starts again, those screws are going to be loose and there's going to be some pieces falling off.
Exactly.
So they're going to be having to face within 90 days of how do they get out of this next deficit.
Right.
And they're all concerned because also it's election year next year. So they
That's
want
right.
to try to keep it as quiet as they can.
Exactly.
Probably not to, so I think they need to concentrate strictly on our budgetary issues.
Right.
The governor talks about transportation. We were talking about transportation. Everybody since O'Neill has been talking about transportation since the Marianas Bridge collapsed back in 1983.
Right.
So I'm glad to see that they're continuing where we left off in the General Assembly, where Governor Rell started, but she wasn't bold enough to put the money in there that we wanted. I know the governor was really trying to do that. He was just granted, I think, $3.8 billion or $3.5 billion today from the federal government. So we thank Congressman Courtney and our other delegations. Rosa and Dick Blumenthal, Senator Murphy, Himes, Larson, obviously.
Yep.
Esty. I think I got everybody.
You did.
If I didn't, I'm in big trouble. But they did a great job of bringing some of that money back.
They did.
That's going to help us out. But I don't know really how the governor, he's announced this, what they call a lockbox. I'll get into that. That's a good question. What is a lockbox?
All right.
And try to continue to spend on the transportation infrastructure and our railways and everything else. Those are all positive things that can create opportunity and jobs. The problem is, after that $3.5 billion, where's he going to get it?
Where's your money? Where is it?
That's a unfortunate, horrible
Exactly.
situation to be in there when you're trying to be a leader on transportation, but when you reach in your pockets, there's nothing but cotton balls there.
Exactly. Now, you mentioned it, and I'm going to ask you the question because I can, and that's what I do. What is a lockbox?
Well, the governor, if you remember way back when, I think it was Al Gore talked about a lockbox.
Yeah.
Well, that phrase has come back again in transportation Governor Malloy talks about this lockbox. I can't remember the amount of money he was talking.
That's okay.
$100 billion or something else like that over the next 30 years.
All right.
Unfortunately, the reality of a lockbox is not reality. As soon as Governor Malloy moves on, the next governor will open up the lockbox or crush it or throw it away or whatever we'll do with it. The thing about the government and whoever takes over can either support what the last governor has done or change what the last governor has done.
Right.
That's the beauty of democracy.
Excellent.
So though he talks about long-term 30 years in this lockbox, I think he's dwelling too much on that. To me, it's a little bit of a political show that somehow he's going to put that money into transportation, nobody's going to touch it. Well, unfortunately, in all due respect to all our political people, including me,
Right.
I think that's what we told the people, that, hey, make sure you vote for those casinos because that's all that money's going to go.
Right. It's got to go somewhere.
Right, back to education. We had lottery money and all that was going to go to transportation. Might have had them mixed up there. Whatever it was, every time we commit of a new funding source or taxes, we always see it's going to go towards something else.
Right.
I think people are tired of hearing that. Just be a leader on transportation. You're in tough political and economic times.
Yep.
Do the best you can. That's all we can ask.
Exactly.
Lockboxes, throw away the key
Exactly. Blow up the
on that
light.
idea.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So what are some of the other issues we're going to talk about here tonight in the little bit of time we have left? What else you want to?
Well, you tell me. You
tell-
can. But we got. Let's talk about what happens in the upcoming election. That's a good one, right? Presidential. That will cause some heat. Come on, ask me.
I was gonna.
How much time we have left?
We got a few more minutes.
Well,
Let's
let's talk about presidential
All
stuff.
right, let's talk about
and let's
presidential.
but even though we're both Democrats here,
Right.
let's try to be fair to all our political people
Exactly. All right.
as best we can.
All right. Yeah, we
Being
can.
somewhat
Exactly.
leaning to the left here.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit of presidential politics and.
Give me a name, I'll give you an answer.
All right. Hillary Clinton.
Hillary, well, I think Hillary Clinton is in a good position right now
Okay.
because of what's happening on the Republican side. I was a little concerned about where our party was going
Okay.
with Bernie Sanders.
Right.
I think Bernie Sanders is obviously a very committed man. He believes in what he believes. I agree with some of his policy and disagree with most of them.
Okay.
I don't think that far to the left is what our country needs, but I think he's a man of integrity, and I think, I think he's a person, as a political person, one of the only ones that at least you can look him in the eye and he says what he believes. Putting that aside,
Yes.
I think Hillary, I was surprised on how many people supported Bernie Sanders.
Right.
And not only here in Connecticut, but across our nation. It just opens my eyes of how far left our party has gone.
Right.
And it was very educational for me. Hillary Clinton, I guess in my day would have been called a liberal. I guess people might call her more of a moderate today.
Okay.
Moderate to liberal, but again, from my perspective, from my day in politics, we would have considered her liberal. I think Hillary's in a position right now, again, because of all the battling on the Republican side of winning this election. Give me another name and I'll give you another perspective.
All right. Ben Carson.
A very interesting man. I personally don't see it.
I don't either, but
He seems like the guy that you would love to have as a neighbor.
Right.
Guy
Right.
you'd like to have over the house for a bite to eat. Obviously he's a very intelligent man.
Oh yeah.
Another person that I think believes in a lot of the things he says, but I think he's ill-equipped to be our president. I don't think he has enough knowledge of worldwide politics and what's going on in our world. But certainly I think he, besides a couple of his flubs and a couple of little far-fetched stories, I think he's a decent human being, but not presidential material.
How about Marco Rubio?
You know, I kind of like I kind of liked Marco Rubio at one time.
Right.
Last year, I thought he was young, upcoming fella. I didn't think he was too far to the right. However, there's a few things that disturb me about him. You know, when you're somebody that is running for office, you're in the public sector and you're buying homes and you're buying cars and you're not paying your bills and you're living above your means. You know, that kind of concerns me as
Right.
a neighbor again, or has anybody done that we know? Of course they have.
Right.
But someone that seems to be living a little bit highfalutin, and when you don't have the bucks to pay for it, concerns me. So I do, that puts a question mark on Rubio to me, but extremely intelligent guy. I think, you know, his heritage helps him. But he may be, I think he may be the Republican nominee, but I believe Hillary will beat him.
All right. We're good. We got time. We got time for maybe one or two more. But
Come on, let's go. You got to give me some hard ones. Like, there's a couple names there you haven't dropped yet.
Ready?
Let's go.
Donald Trump.
My Lord, help us.
That's all you got. Huh?
It scares me. It scares me, in all reality, that Donald Trump could be getting the crowds, the support,
Yeah,
the enthusiasm, the rallies. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I think because we've become so polarized as a nation, polarized as political people, that we will look at somebody like Donald Trump to be behind. Listen, it is true that Donald Trump says things that many Americans feel, that they might yell at their TV set around the table, and that anger is coming out in the form through Donald Trump. But God help us in all reality if he became our president, because in reality he would not be good for the United States long term. Exactly. I met Donald Trump. He's obviously a successful person. I give him a lot of credit for that. But as a president, I'd be very concerned as an American.
Exactly.
Might be the only time I ever thought about becoming a Canadian.
There you go. There you go. Well, we're right about time, but before we say goodnight, I want to thank you for coming down, my friend, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Well, Jeb Bush I could support.
Yeah, exactly.
But you didn't bring up Jeb.
No, we won't talk about Jeb today.
Okay.
We'll see you soon, though.
Hope so.
All right. On behalf of Jim Amann, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks, good night, and we'll see you next week.